Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Currently, the Jets are a third of the way through on the preseason schedule. So now that we've seen pretty much everybody play, maybe except Brad Lambert and Nate Schmidt in these preseason games, I just wanted to take a look at my thoughts and express them to you guys and tell you guys what I've seen in these games and give my thoughts on some of the players that have stood out for the good reasons and the bad. So first of all, we'll start off with the game against the Edmonton Oilers, and the Jets look terrible right from the first shift. Logan Stanley turns it over, ends up in the back of the net, and throughout that game, it was pretty boring. There really wasn't any grade A chances, and I didn't really see anybody stand out a ton, except David Gustafson, Saku Manalainen, I believe that's how you say it, and Declan Chisholm as well. I thought all those players had pretty good nights, but it was a pretty boring game. Not a lot of the vets were in there. It was just really, really young, and you could tell that it was first pro action for a lot of these guys, and it was just a rough game. Jets were getting outplayed, and it was 1-0 until the third, and then everything just came crashing down. But the one highlight that I got out of this is that David Gustafson is an NHL player. He looks ready to go. He looks strong. His positioning is fantastic. I'm a massive fan of David Gustafson on what I've seen so far, and I think that he's going to be a really good contributor for the Jets this season. One guy that I don't think is going to be a contributor to the Jets this season, I think he has potential to get waived after how poorly this camp and preseason has gone for him so far, is Logan Stanley, and a lot of you are going to hate that, because I know there are some big Logan Stanley stans out there, and that's totally fine. If you like Logan Stanley, that's great. I just don't think that he has what it takes, unfortunately. I think Heinola or Sandberg are going to take that spot. We'll get into that later, but Stanley looked horrific. First minute of the game, I believe it was his first shift, he turned it over and bang in the back of the net, and you know, that sucks. Obviously, guys are going to make mistakes in preseason, but Stanley made the same mistake about 3 or 4 times in that game. One turnover almost got buried into the back of the net later in the game, so it should have been 2, but I don't know. He just didn't look good. He was getting out-muscled in the corner. He was a little bit more physical, which was nice to see, using his size to take away space, but he just wasn't doing it enough, and he was making too many mistakes for that to even really be a factor. And just high danger mistakes, not even like little tiny mistakes, but just big glaring problems. And he's getting hemmed in his own zone. It just wasn't a good game for Logan Stanley. And, you know, I don't hope he does bad or anything, but I do think that it's time Heinola or Sandberg need to step up and take that 6th spot. That's all that I really have to say about Game 1. It was just pretty bad. Dave Rittich looked pretty bad as the game went on too. In the third period, he just kind of collapsed. It's hard to really judge goalies. I mean, they're so random, but I don't have a lot of faith in Dave Rittich, but he is more than likely going to be the backup for the Jets, and I hope that he can figure it out before the season starts. That's all I've got to say about Game 1. Game 1, you can pretty much throw in the trash, besides a couple of guys playing pretty decently. Moving on to Game 2, it was much better. They were playing a pretty young Ottawa squad, and a lot of the veterans were playing, and you'd think the veterans would take over the game, but I didn't think that was the case. I thought it was Saku Manalainen who got another start, Mikey Eyssimont, and Daniel Torkinson, who put on a clinic in this one. They were playing amazing, and I was super impressed with all 3 of them. All 3 of those guys, I think, have a legitimate shot to try to wiggle into the lineup, whether that's the 13th forward spot to start the season, or even steal a spot from Harkins or Barron. I think Don Toninado's job got a lot harder, and I do think that he needs to try to prove that he is a really good 4th line guy, because I was super impressed with Saku Manalainen and Mikey Eyssimont. Eyssimont, he did play 1 game for the Jets last season. He actually had a really good year with the Moose last year, and I really liked what I've seen from him. If he gets that 4th line spot, I think that he'll be an excellent contributor, just always on the puck, making smart reads. I really like him. Manalainen, he was using his size. He's a big guy, big Finnish player, and he can shoot too. He rung one off the bar last night, almost went in for him. So You know, you love to see that kind of competition in training camp and in preseason because it lets you know, hey, you do have depth if you need it. And fourth line depth is nice. The Jets have had a fourth line that's been pretty horrific for the past, I don't even know, 3-4 years. Like, we're not running Nate Thompson, Trevor Lewis, and Logan Shaw anymore. We've got actual players now. Yeah, the fourth line this year I'm imagining is going to be Gustafson with Gagne on the wing and insert whoever wins that left wing spot out of camp, whether that's Harkins, Barron, Sam Nylainen, Mikey Eyssimont, or Daniel Torgerson. But yeah, Torgerson, 2 goals, really liked his game, just getting into a spot to score, finding those open areas, and making really good reads. I was super impressed with him. He's a guy that I've liked for a while, former second-round pick, but I wasn't sure if this was the year that he would really make an impact or really show off what he had yet. I thought maybe he needed a year to get used to the North American game, full year with the Moose, and then try next year. But he really impressed, and I'm super happy for him. I think that he's going to be a really good Jet. Maybe not this year, but next year I think he's got a real shot. Now, the big thing coming into this game was that Samberg and Ville Heinola were going to be playing, and both those guys honestly just had a rough, I don't know, like half a game. Heinola ended up scoring on the power play, and I did like both of their games as the games went on. I think Ville played slightly better towards the end of the game, but I don't know if you can really chalk any of that up to a win instantly. I think you gotta wait and see if one of those guys can truly take over a game or just play a really complete game in the next couple of games here. In Game 3 against the Habs, Samberg, Heinola, and Stanley are all playing, so that is going to be the audition game for sure, and I hope that Samberg or Ville can really come in there and take that spot and prove that they deserve that 6th spot. But enough about the younger guys right now. The veterans were in this game. The top 6 was Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor, with Lowry centering Perfetti and Wheeler, and those guys were pretty unnoticeable for most of the game. You saw a flash of Ehlers' speed. Blake Wheeler looked okay on the power play, but not a lot of stuff really. I mean, Perfetti played fine, I think. Just really good playmaker. He was making nice passes, but you just really didn't see much from that top 6. They didn't play terrible, but just not as quick as you'd like them to be looking at this time of year. And Rick Bowness was not happy either. He went on to say that the shifts need to be shorter and that they need to lead the way for the younger players, and he's absolutely right. It's kind of interesting because in the past couple years we have never heard anything regarding the veterans being the problem from Paul Maurice. It's always been, no, the young guys are the issue when they really haven't been. So it's nice to see that he's called out the veterans like Scheifele, like Wheeler, like Ehlers, like Connor, for needing to be a little bit more locked in here and drive some more intensity into their games. So that's all that I have to talk about for the first 2 games. For the game coming up against Montreal, I mean, we're going to get to see Brad Lambert for the first time, and later down the line we'll get to see Morgan Barron as he's back from injury too. But Brad Lambert, we'll get to see him in a Jets sweater for the first time. I'm very excited for that. I don't think there's much of a chance at all for him to be on the Jets this season, but I am just excited to see kind of where he's at and see how he kind of just blends in with the NHL right now. So that's what's going on for Montreal, and that's where I'm going to leave it here. I just kind of wanted to update kind of my thoughts on what's going on. I do think that 6th defensive spot is totally still up for grabs. Samberg or Heinola, I believe, are going to be the ones filling it, just with how unimpressive Stanley was. I thought he still had a shot, but after that game, I mean, if he has another one of those games, you can pretty much write that off for sure. But Samberg or Heinola, something to watch for sure. And then Manalainen, Mikey Eyssimont, and Daniel Torgerson, watch out for those guys. I think they do have a shot. Maybe some guys' chances better than others, but I do think you could see them in the Jets lineup before too long come regular season. But that is going to do it for this video. The preseason, you know, we're a third of the way through. who's really impressed you guys? I'd love to hear what your opening night lineup would look like right now. Who do you think grabs that all-important last defensive spot that's up for grabs currently? Is it Sandberg? Is it Heinola? Or do you think Logan Stanley comes through with a couple big games and steals it from them? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are so far. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We're almost at 500 subscribers. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Like the video. Really helps me out. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone.